Peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abba, aka Mr. Just the Facts. Family, we're gonna have one of those discussions tonight. Make sure you share the video out. Make sure you text it to a couple of people. Send them the link. We're gonna have a discussion about America's descendants of slavery. And this discussion is based on a report that was put out by Reuters. We're going to dig into this thing. We're going to dig into this thing tonight. So family, make sure y'all share the video out. Hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the Be the Power YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell icon next to the subscribe button so that you can become a part of the notification nation and be notified every single time Be the Power drops its unique, dynamic content. This one is going to be interesting. So, just want to give some shout outs to some of the people that's in the chat. You already know fam is in the chat. BTP Riri is on deck. Our sister Cynthia is on deck. Our sister BTP Shanna is on deck. Vince Jefferson is plugged in. Yeah, fam. We're going to touch on some things today. We're going to do some reading. We're going to look at some of these people that's in office who trace their bloodline back to the institution of slavery, meaning their ancestors were slaveholders. And for those of you who have been following Be the Power over the past couple of years, you know that we've been saying that terms like American Descendants of SLAVERY, although it came out of the beefs that was going on, where we were, meaning those of us at Be the Power, were attacked by the group leaders and their followers. I call them the cult. Out of nowhere, we were just attacked, right? Online slander, etc., etc. But we came up with the name United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. We were promoting the term Freedmen before that attack happened and before we stopped rocking with that group. I don't want nobody to think that this is that, but I say this to say that we've said for several years that slavery was an institution. It's an institution. It is not a people. It's not a lineage. It's just not in the way that lineage is understood. It is not based on our ancestral bloodline, because that institution of slavery had several components. It had so-called black people, so-called white people. It had financial institutions. It had several insurance companies that indemnified the quote-unquote property. It had many different components. And that's why it is called throughout the historical records that peculiar institution. We're going to get into that tonight. What's going on, brother Charlie Jacobs? Sister Antonia is in the building. What's going on? Boston Freedmen family is on deck. So let me see. Where do I want to go with this? The first thing I want to do, I want to put this picture. I want to put this picture in the minds of our audience. There's a picture from the Reconstruction era, and I forget the artist, but the depiction wasn't if my memory serves me correctly, it wasn't to promote these groups. It was to show how these groups terrorized our people. And let's break this down before we get into, before we go in. Just a little bit. In the middle, it says the lost cause. And there's an agreement between these devils of the White League and these devils of the Ku Klux. The lost cause is inscribed over a handshake, an agreement between white supremacy. White supremacy has two sides. White supremacy has two wings. And we find white supremacy on both sides of the political aisle. We find white supremacy on the right side of the political aisle. We find white supremacy on the left side of the political aisle. Now let me know if my music is too loud. I'm trying to do something new tonight. What's going on? Ali, give me some feedback, bro. How much is it sounding too loud? Y'all let me know if that sounds too loud, if I need to turn the sound down on the music. I'm trying something new tonight. Trying to get into a little flow with it. That's all. That's all. All right, I ain't getting no crazy feedback yet. I'm guessing that it's good. I'm guessing that everything's cool. Let me see. Ali just hit me up. Okay, Ali said bring it down a little. All right, I will do that. I will do that. All right, hopefully that's cool. Y'all let me know, Ali, if it still sound crazy, you let me know what you think. But that's just the thing that I wanted to experiment with tonight. Have some music in the background playing while we are giving our breakdowns. Again, make sure y'all hit that thumbs up button. Share this video out. Share it out. So we're breaking down the symbol before we get into this topic about America's slavery descendants, or America's descendants of slavery. Matter of fact, let me fix my banner. All right, and again, y'all let me know if that music is still too loud. If it's still too loud, I'll cut it off. But I cut it down. I turned it down a lot because I just got a message. Okay. All right, so I think it's cool. I think we're cool now. All right, I think we're cool. I'm getting messed. Shout out to my brother Prom. He said he liked it. He liked the new edition. It was just a little too loud. He said he could hear a little bit better now. Let me fix my banner because I want to. Oh, can I? Oh yeah, let me fix it. Take that out from right there. Cut that. Paste that right there, so that the banner can, or the ticker can reflect title. All right, fam. So what we're looking at, right? Worse than slavery. This symbol is so powerful. This is a very, very powerful symbol. And we see that the family, the Freedmen family, is the victim. And we hovered in fear for generations in this country because this is exactly what they wanted. They wanted to create fear. And you'll see the schoolhouses burnt down. It's ravaged. And when they couldn't burn down the schoolhouse, they stripped it of its funding. And so young freedmen, boys and girls, had to go to white schools to get proper education. I seen a post the other day criticizing freedmen parents for sending their children to these quote unquote predominantly white schools without giving any context to causality, because causality is key to understanding why. If you want your children to get a good education, to put them in the, I mean, imagine you're locked in the bathroom and somebody takes a bunch of beehives and then crash them on the floor while you're in there and you're just getting stung up. This is what we had to deal with in those schools. And white supremacy, as they called themselves, they gave themselves this false notion that they were supreme. They gave themselves a false notion that they were even white to begin with. They didn't care about the babies. They didn't care about anybody. Peace to our sister Roz, DMV Freedmen is on deck. What's going on, Sister Shanette Drayton? Worse than slavery. And in many respects, it has been worse than slavery for us after Reconstruction. And do not get me wrong, slavery was horrific. It was horrific, but it got exponentially worse after slavery. And when they couldn't burn down the schoolhouses, as I just mentioned earlier, they stripped it of its funding. And we didn't have the proper teachings, and so they gave us textbooks. And those textbooks were compiled and published by the Daughters of the Confederacy, who rewrote the narrative that this was somehow a war of northern aggression, as opposed to it being a war against seditious rebels from the South that wanted to maintain property in man. The Eagle. This is a white man's government. What's so ironic was I was thinking about the Eagle today because we're going to use it in one of our logos soon that y'all are going to see. And maybe not soon. I don't know if that's going to be soon, but it's for one of our programs. And I thought about the eagle, the bald eagle specifically, that is native to the Americas, particularly the North American region, and how that symbol was adopted by the European. It's not their symbol. They just merely adopted it because I had to contemplate if it was something that I wanted to use. But it doesn't belong to them. It doesn't. But nevertheless, they use it anyway. And they say this is a white man's government. And this is what they wanted us to believe, that this was a white man's government. And that was the fear that they placed in us. And for most of us, we carried that fear with us. And even when it wasn't fear and it was replaced with outspoken, fearless rhetoric, the idea that it was still a white man's government remained. And so we became not only apolitical, we became apathetic along the way. So their plan worked. We're going to lynch them for voting. And when we can't lynch them, we're going to come up with other ways. We're going to implement tests that they can't pass. I'm going to get into some of that a little bit later. And this was the pact. And here you see a freedman hanging there, and you could tell the depiction. They drew the depiction of the freedman male monstrous as to resemble a primate or ape-like creature, as if we were somehow genetically related to the ape-like creatures. But science has shown that the purest of Africans from whom we descend had no Neanderthal DNA in them at all. But that's a whole nother conversation. So I want to, but matter of fact, there's another important part of this, and that's this book here. A, B, C, D, E, F, and I'm assuming that's a G, right? We can assume that that's a G.
A G and then an H next to it.
Say it again, bro.
A G and then an H. Yeah.
And that book, It's on the floor. It's if you ever seen an apartment or a home that got ransacked, my interpretation of this is that that's what this book represents. And in the fear, we don't want to pick that book up. We just want to protect ourselves. And we try to protect ourselves in many, many ways. And some of those ways was by adopting anti-American rhetoric.
Also,
rhetoric. Go ahead,
let me give you my interpretation of that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you got these people up from slavery who are trying to educate themselves. And, you know, obviously the ABCs are the basic building blocks of literacy and, you know, of the English language and being literate in the English language. That man hanging in the back is a man who was probably caught trying to read that book or trying to teach other people how to read that book. And these people probably agree that, you know, the one thing we don't want is for these people to learn how to read and write and become literate, because with education comes light, and we don't want them to have the light.
Fact, and that is a fact. So let me come out of this. Let's come out of this. Stop sharing that. So Ali, before we open this thing up, because I think I'm gonna start with this article, and then I'm gonna start with the article, and then we're gonna work our way into it. So I was speaking to the fact that slavery was an institution, and why we felt that the term American Descendants of Slavery was an inadequate term because it was one that could be challenged. And it wasn't a shot. Like, right, what we're doing right now is not a shot at that group, although they shoot at us all the time. But that's not this. Do you want to touch on that before we get into, you know, just pulling up some stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know I've been one of the people, as well as you, who have been publicly making statements that slavery is in fact an institution and that no natural born person descends from an institution. Nevertheless, if you want to make that claim, then the institution is not only going to include so-called black people, it's going to include white people. Why? Because of exactly what you mentioned earlier, which is the fact that the institution had two sides to it. It had the slaves, and then it had the slave owners or the slave holders. And so when you talk about being a descendant of the institution, well, then because you're not talking specifically from the perspective of actual ancestry, you're talking about being born out of the institution. And you know, so I guess, you know, for some people, they think that they're Negroes, right? Because they were created, and that this Negro is this monster or this beast that was created out of this institution, and that's somehow what we are. So then, you know, because you believe that kind of thing, not only is it the Negro or Frankenstein, but the Frankenstein's monster, but it's also Frankenstein, who's also a part of that, because he was a part of the process, was a part of the institution and the creation of the institution and the thing that was born out of it. So everybody, if you're going to start talking about being a descendant of the institution of slavery, everyone who was involved, every institution that was involved, whether they be banks or insurance companies or whatever the case is, all of these things are now considered quote unquote descendants, or something that was born out of this particular institution called Negro chattel slavery. So yeah, I you know, first of all, I don't subscribe to the idea of natural born persons being descendants of an institution called slavery. I don't subscribe to that. I always said that we are descendants of people who were enslaved, also known as slaves. So if you're going to be proper about it, right, if you're going to actually use proper terminology, it would make more sense to say that you are descendants of slaves or formerly enslaved people, whatever you want to say. But because it's about the people, it's always about the people. When you start making it about institutions and things of that nature, it starts becoming vague, and all kinds of things can start getting put into the mix. I don't subscribe to that. So I don't say that we're descendants of no institution. We're descendants of our parents, who are descendants of their parents and their parents and their parents. You understand? That's the way that works as far as I'm concerned. And for me, it also has to do with the fact that we're trying to show people that we're actually heirs to something, right? We are the people who were supposed to inherit certain things that we were actually denied access to. So it's deeper than even talking about descendancy. But I'll stop there.
Indeed, indeed. Excellent breakdown. Excellent breakdown. So let me share one thing. Family, tomorrow night, make sure y'all tune in. Make sure y'all tune in. I'm going to be having a spirited debate with this brother named Randy Perham. He's a black Republican that spews a lot of, bootstrapperism, et cetera, et cetera. So y'all make sure y'all tune in tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I will be, we'll see if the brother can stand on his stuff. We'll see if he can stand on his stuff. But make sure y'all tune in for that debate. Randy Perham, he's on my IG post right now where this flyer is at. I believe on the Be the Power page, going back and forth with everybody. He's getting cooked. I don't know how he's gonna stand. It's a sister on there that's a black Republican that's cooking him. So I don't know how he's gonna stand up to this cooking he gonna get here on BTP, but we'll see. Maybe, some people know how to debate. Some people just know how to debate, even when they're wrong. I actually look forward to those types of challenges. So y'all make sure that y'all check this out. Okay, fam, so let's get into this thing. Let's get into this thing. I want to start here. I want to get into the Reuters report, but I want to start with this article first, because this article is going to be key as we get into the Reuters report. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share screenshots from the NBC article of the Reuters report, and then we'll break it down. So this is Fox News, of course. They don't mind stirring up stuff. Texas rep introduces bill. Texas rep introduces bill to bar federal bailouts of states that implement reparations. And it says Reps Burgess Owens. From what I know, Burgess Owens is a Freedman, and one of those King Randall types, and Scott Franklin are backing the bill. Now, I'm not familiar with Scott. Let me see Scott Franklin. See what his quote unquote race is. Oh, yep, white guy, Republican. He definitely looks rednecky to me. Okay, so these devils, this guy, right? So let's get into it. A Texas GOP House member introduced a bill to block federal bailouts for states or municipalities that implement reparations programs. Hold on. And I want y'all to peep this brother's name. I want y'all to peep this brother's name. I want to turn that music down a little bit more. All right. Okay, Texas Republican Rep. Brian Babin introduced the No Bailouts for Reparations Act last week, which would prohibit federal bailouts or financial assistance from going to states or municipalities operating programs giving reparations for slavery. See, they use slavery. They keep it there. That's why we tell people, and we're telling people that use that term, American Descendants of Slavery. If you use that, you're giving these people the out that they need, because it's the things that happened after slavery that creates the total package of reparative justice when it comes to our people as we petition this government for a redress of our grievances. It says, Babin said, American taxpayers shouldn't be forced to pay for radical, race-based reparations payments to please the woke left. Now, the problem here is that, well, the woke left doesn't support reparations. The Democrats have openly said that they do not support reparations. Yellen, who is the Treasury Secretary, was just on a trip a couple months ago and was asked about reparations to the American freedmen today. You know, those of us who are descendants of emancipated persons. Got to get that language right, fam. Got to get that language right. You go if you want to win. If you want to win. And she said, no, the administration is not actively pursuing reparations, which means the administration does not support reparative justice for our people. Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake. Let them eat cake. That's right, Sister Roz. She said Burgess Owens spoke against reparations in June of 2019, former athlete. You know, these people get pats on the head. And shout out to Brother Devon, because I think he's still holding that Twitter space, and they're going in on the King Randall guy. Bootstrapperism, right? The bootstrapperism that they push, where they tell you that you shouldn't fight for reparations while soliciting donations from white folks, the same white folks that say, you're not going to see a dime of my money. Why should I pay taxes? Just like this devil said, why should I pay taxes? Give it to you. But I want you to keep this guy, what's his name? Brian Bobbin in mind. I want you to keep that name in mind. I put that link in the live chat. So let's get into the article that was published by NBC, and then we're going to get into the report. So let me see. Let's start here. All right. So let's start here. Again, family, if you have not hit that like button, make sure you hit that like button. Share this video out. These are a few of the excerpts that came from the NBC article. And I'm going to read. It says, among 536 members of the last sitting Congress, for example, Reuters determined at least 100 descend from slaveholders. Of that group, more than a quarter of the Senate, 28 members can trace their families to at least one slaveholder. Among those lawmakers from the 117th Congress are Democrats and Republicans alike. They include some of the most influential politicians in America. Republican senators Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and Tom Cotton. That's like no shock there. And Democrats Elizabeth Warren, Tammy Duckworth, and Jeanne Shaheen. Like, that's interesting. We got a bunch of Democrats who also do not support reparations that have ancestors who own slaves in this country. Two wings of the same bird. And we have to pluck those feathers. And we have to control the bird and pluck those feathers out. Because these people and the ideology that they represent, they are the feathers. The feathers grow back. Feathers can grow back. And they have to be freedmen feathers. Freedmen feathers. If y'all follow my analogy. It says, in addition, Reuters determined that President Joe Biden and every living former U.S. president, except Donald Trump, are direct descendants of slaveholders. Jimmy Carter, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and through his mother's white side, Barack Obama. 2 of the 9 sitting U.S. Supreme Court justices, Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch, of course, they are right. They've been appointed by right-wing. Matter of fact, both of them were appointed by Trump. Also have direct ancestors who enslaved people. Barack Obama's white mother marrying a Kenyan, not a freedman, a Kenyan, lets you know everything you need to know about Barack Obama and why he looked down upon our people. Go back and look at the videos that we did exposing Barack Obama last week. You will find them very interesting. They're right here in the archives on this channel. It says a Reuters Ipsos poll for this report showed that white respondents who said they're aware of having a slave-holding ancestor were more likely than other white people to support paying reparations. 42% backed the idea, compared to 24% who said their ancestors did not enslave people. Ali, what do you think about that last part, bro? Where out of the slave-holding ancestry, those that have slave-holding ancestry, 42% back the idea. But if I'm reading this correctly, 24% of, I'm guessing, all white folks. Let me see. A voters poll for this report showed that white respondents who said they're aware of having, and I don't know because they're not clear on if this 24% represents the those who have slave holding ancestors but don't support the idea. So when I first saw this, I thought about where that number is at now. It's about 28% of white Americans that support it, which means that we have about 62% of Americans, white Americans, that do not support it, which means that if we are to guess, most of them have most of them have immigrant, white or European immigrant background. What are your thoughts about that, bro?
Well, I think that there is based on a misunderstanding of how a debt like this should be paid and who is actually responsible for it, who the culpable party is. People have personalized it. And so for a lot of these immigrants who are anti-reparationists, but they come from some kind of European stock, they believe that this is something that would come out of their tax dollars. And I mean, it's to the point where they even feel like they would probably be getting their checks garnished or something. You know, I mean, it's like that. It's that deep. It's that deep that they feel like they would see some kind of reduction in their paychecks. That's the way they kind of express it. And so I think a part of it is ignorance. A part of it is their hatred of the freedmen, because I would say it's anti-blackness, but it's beyond anti-blackness. It's actually about the freedmen group specific.
Yeah, Ali, you went out, bro.
Yeah, how about now? Is it still out?
There you go.
Yeah, I would say it's anti-blackness, but it's beyond that, because that same kind of sentiment can be expressed from people who are supposedly black from the diaspora too. So in terms of people with slaveholding ancestry feeling like that is something that should be done, it makes sense, because on a certain level, they know that their families, a lot of the family's wealth comes from the fact that they were slave owners, right? And they're honest enough to admit that. And so I believe that certain people who actually have slaveholding ancestry can actually admit to it because they know of their family's involvement. But it's these other people who feel like their families weren't involved who want to make these kinds of arguments and start talking about taxes and inflation and all kind of stuff. So I don't know. I think it's ignorance and the fact that their families may not have owned slaves and not understanding how a debt like this should be paid.
Exactly. Okay, so let us get into Reuters report. This thing was just going through this. It gave me the NBC report noted that these are the politicians that have slave holding ancestry, some of the people who have influence on policy. That's why I wanted to lead with Babbitt. I wanted to lead with Babbitt and this bill that he wants to pass, because these devils have made a pact, just like we seen in that image that I showed with the White League and the KKK, to crush to death the hated freedmen. That was a line from Thaddeus Stevens as he was trying to get the 1866 Civil Rights Act basically protected under the 14th Amendment, or as the 14th Amendment, I should say. And he said, unless the Constitution should restrain them, those states will all, I fear, keep up this discrimination and crush to death the hated freedmen. So this bill that Babin is proposing is just another way to crush to death the hated freedmen. And we need all people, whether they call themselves foundational Black American or American descendants of slavery or neo-Negroes, we need them to understand that this fight is specific. And we bear the name. We bear the name of the status that we fought for. And in that name, it created an ethnic identifier that they themselves use, meaning white America and American freedmen, which is why we're pushing it now, because it ties us to that status, which ties us to the Reconstruction Amendment, or what Eric Foner called the second founding. Oh, y'all don't, not y'all, I know y'all, but many people do not understand how important and how powerful that part is. The second founding, what those Reconstruction Amendments mean to us, and why they must continue to try and crush to death the hated freedmen. So let's get into that article. Let me see. How do I want to do this? I think I want to, because I want to be able to pull up the text. You know what? I won't do it that way. We'll just pull this thing up. I thought this symbol was powerful, and that's why I changed the initial thumbnail to this symbol. This is a powerful symbol right here. And this is the Reuters report. Matter of fact, let me put that in the live chat for those of you who are following along. Y'all know how we do. We share the information as we go along. Peace, sister FadeXX. Yeah, we going in tonight, fam. We're going to break this thing down because this was a powerful report.
And you know something, you said something very powerful about this whole American freedman terminology as an ethnic identifier, and the difference between that and that of any other one that was used. Well, we never had an ethnic identifier.
Fact.
Right. But the fact of the matter is this one was actually used in that way. And it was something that like you said, our people fought for that. That's the difference. It's not something that was imposed on our folks the way all of these other racial things were, like Negro and Black and colored and mulatto and Sambo and all of these other things. All that stuff was imposed on the people. This is something, this freedman thing is something that they actually fought, killed, and died for. Very, very different than all that other stuff. I just wanted to point that out one more time.
Facts. Also, family, I believe the membership feature. I don't see the membership button on the channel. Matter of fact, let me see if I switch channels. I should be able to see it. Let's see what happens if I switch channels. Bear with me 1 second before we get into this. I want to know if the membership feature is activated on the channel, because we want, the membership feature is activated on the channel. If you want to support the channel, you can use the super chat. You can join as a member of the channel, and you could also cash app $ be the power to support the platform. We're going to keep our foot on the pedal. We're going to keep teaching. We're going to keep making these revelations and feeding the Freedmen family as we ourselves learn and push our freedom fight along. Peace, Sister Ela. What's going on? What's going on? Okay, so let's get into this, because this is deep. This was deep. Going through this page was whoo. Okay, it says, at a time of renewed debate over slavery and its legacy, many of today's U.S. leaders have staked key positions on policies related to race. Reuters sought to determine how many of those political elites descend from slaveholders and what it means for them to learn in personal, specific, and sometimes graphic ways the facts behind their own family's part in slavery. So, it gets into this thing, man. This is deep. Y'all make sure y'all check all this out. The slaves built that. I can't wait to see that in part 2 and part 3. All we are is a memory, no elders. And I'm hoping someone, I tagged Reuters. I'm hoping someone from Reuters is watching this, right? If somebody tag Reuters again, let them know that we have a rise of the American freedmen right now, and that we refuse to be reduced to a memory ever again in this country. And we get to tell our story of how we're stamping out Pan-Africanism and how that particular mythical ideology has been trying to drive a further wedge between us and the goal of reparative justice. So let us get into this. This is woo. Honors to our sister Faye XX for becoming a member. The membership perks. We're going to be getting our Freedmen Free You merch soon. We're working on that. And for certain members, once they reach certain levels, they will be getting free You merch, for supporting the platform. Depending on the level, I had badges. I don't know why the badges are not showing up unless I can't see them from the. Hold on, y'all. I just want to make sure everything right before we move forward. Let's just hold on, because I know I set some badges, and I probably can't see the badges from the StreamYard. So let's see. Okay, I see her BTP badge. All right. Yeah, we working, fam. We working. Let's go. Become a member of the channel. Support the channel. Let's get it, fam. Okay. Let's go through this thing, man. Let's go through this thing. Reuters found that 118 of America's most influential leaders have a slave-holding ancestor. Explore information about their forebears and the people they enslaved. This is so powerful. Reuters deserves a shout out for this. Reuters, there's certain elements that we're fighting for, and there are certain elements that are being uncovered for us. We here at Be the Power and the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen have a word that we use in this instance, and it's called providence. This is providence right here. So, I don't have to read through all of this. It's just letting it be known, they notified these political elites, and we're going to run through. It's a lot, Ali. It's a whole lot of them. But these are the senators, and these are all the senators, and these are all the representatives, and these are the presidents. Look at Barack Obama's face on there, though. Look at Obama's face on the slave holders list, fam. Man. What did Mitch McConnell say? I can pull that quote up about him and Barack Obama having slave-holding ancestry in common. These are the people that are in our way. These are the people that are depicted in that image shaking hands, Ali, the White League and the KKK.
But wait, so Barack Obama has been questioning Tim Scott. I don't know if you saw that.
Well, I didn't see it. I've been hearing about it. I keep forgetting to click on it.
Man, this man is questioning Tim Scott's motives and wanting to know whether or not Tim Scott is going to, he wants to be the president, but is he willing to do something about the years of the problems that slavery and racism has caused? Can you believe that shit? Like this dude is actually...
So a descendant of slave holders is telling a descendant of emancipated persons, one who was emancipated from slavery, what he needs to do insofar as social justice is concerned. Am I reading that correctly?
Not just social justice, but remedying the badges and incidents of slavery. and you know, the crazy thing is this is something that he was vehemently against himself. So now, because this black Republican dude who we know good and well, because I think what Barack is trying to do is really set him up for the bullshit so that people can look at him like, see, he's an anti-reparations. So he's trying to paint the dude as an anti-reparationist so that he's thinking that we're stupid enough to just fall for that and not say, yo, Barack, you was an anti-reparationist. How dare you try to put that on him as if it doesn't apply to you? But anyway, that's what it is.
As we grow, family, as we grow, we're gonna expose more and more, and you know that's why we did that live stream the other night. We wanted to show, highlight ourselves as a Freedmen family in the media, particularly myself and Sister Roz and the DMV Freedmen. In the more recent articles, it's just, I said that wrong. It's Isla. My bad, sis. It's definitely Isla. I think I said Ela, if I'm not mistaken. But so let's finish scrolling through this thing. Let's finish scrolling through here because these are the governors, the current governors. How many we count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 governors. 11 governors whose ancestors held slaves in this country. I can't get over the president's part though, Ali, and seeing our quote unquote first black president up there with the grouping of presidents who have slaveholding ancestors. Okay.
Yeah.
What Reuters found connecting letters to slave holding ancestors. And of course, they start with Marsha Blackburn. I went through the whole list, family. And I don't know if we'll be able to go through this whole list tonight. It's 118 people on this list. So this is a senator from Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn. She's a Republican. Her ancestor was Benjamin Fulmer, who had 4 slaves. So she's 5 generations removed from those ancestors. But y'all are going to hear me read a concurrent theme in tonight's live stream. And let me read. Senator Marsha Blackburn did not respond to the information provided by Reuters. Interesting. But, they don't care. It's like, I ain't got nothing to say about that. I'm a goddamn descendant of slaveholders. It is what it is. Let's pass some more anti-black laws, anti-freedmen laws. Roy Blunt, former U.S. Senator from Missouri, had, one enslaved ancestor. He didn't want to provide any information. John Boozman, Senator from Arkansas, 2 enslaved by his ancestor Micah Jah Goolsby. Micah Jah Goolsby. Didn't want to provide any comment. Richard Burr, former U.S. Senator for South Carolina, didn't want to provide any comment. Shirley Moore Capito, Senator from West Virginia, her ancestors owned 5 slaves. Jacob L. Riley didn't want to provide any information. Like, we can keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And in some cases, like here with Bill Cassidy, who is a U.S. Senator from Louisiana, his ancestor name was Pebles Hasty, and his ancestors owned 4 slaves. He didn't want to provide information, but as you can see, they, in some instances, Reuters show the records of these enslaved ancestors. This is a powerful, powerful piece. Make sure y'all click on that link. Again, we got to give Reuters a shout out. I'm going to put that link in the chat again. I'm going to put that link in the chat again so everybody can pull it up and read it on your time. Let's pour over it. Let's pull this information together. Hit us up. We might have to do a part 2 on this thing. I like to build with the family. I don't take stuff from people and then act like we got it and then run around and not build. No, let's build. Let's build. John Cornyn, well, we know this guy is a straight up and down Klansman. His ancestor's name is Nathaniel C. Townsend. He didn't provide any. Tom Cotton, he's mentioned in the article. Some of these people is a no-brainer. This one shocked me. Because from what I know, Tammy Duckworth, she's a Democrat, and she is a part of the AAPI community, Ali and Josh. This was shocking to me. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Can I say something real quick, though?
Wait. Okay.
Go ahead. Keep going.
No.
Keep going.
All right, let's read this and then we'll get into that. Let's read this. These are the people that were enslaved. Her ancestor's name was Henry Coe, C-O-E. It's interesting, really interesting, because she capes for AAPI. She's a Democrat.
Yeah, but she probably has a European ancestor. Because a lot of these other. Go ahead, Josh.
No, I always cut you out. Go ahead, bro.
A lot of the Asians come over here to try to quote unquote access whiteness. So they come and try and assimilate, and they want to have babies and get married to Europeans. So that whatever, man. There's amalgamation there too. That's probably why. Probably a white ancestor of hers.
Just wait, before you go, Josh, I gotta pull up this comment by Sister Roz. They can pull up all of this clandestine info, but can't figure out who was descended from emancipated people. Excellent point, sis. And that's why I said this is providence. This is providence. Y'all just proved that it can be done, and y'all just gave us another bullet to put in our chamber. They just don't realize it. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I want to say, this right here that's being revealed is, I think, something that they're going to use in response as another way of making a bloody shirt argument or waving a bloody shirt. They're going to try to flip this to be victims. They want to demonize us for our ancestors' past, but we're not our ancestors. Okay, you're not your ancestors, but you were able to reach these. You were able to reach these heights, to the highest level of political offices in America, in terms of U.S. congressmen, U.S. presidents, state governors, and so on and so forth. That's not by accident, that you were probably descended from people who were also powerful people, not just because they want to say, well, wealth was destroyed through the Civil War. That's something they like to say a lot of times. Yeah, but power and influence remain. That power and influence and reputation of the family and the wealth, a lot of it was transferred, because these people try to act like they didn't get their land and citizenship, full citizenship restored. These
Right.
slaveholding Confederates, they weren't made citizens with disabilities. They could still do everything else that other white citizens could do, including subjugate the freedmen
That's
through public subjugation instead of private bondage. Okay, and we got to understand something too about how Barack Obama. Barack Obama, yeah, we see like his mama. That's part of that slaveholding ancestry. Through his mama's side. But everybody gets a chance to make a choice. You get it. What are you going to do today with the power that you have? Are you going to stop? Don't try to be a victim and say, "Oh, that doesn't matter." Okay, well, what are you going to do about it today? If you know that that's in the past, if you know that you shouldn't, if you feel that you shouldn't have a sense of personal guilt behind this because this is your ancestors, you're not your ancestors. So if you're not your ancestors, show us and be about something different. This is not a matter of personal guilt. So don't try to play the guilt card and then the victim card. This is a matter of national responsibility. And a lot of these people are governing and passing legislation and in charge that would be in charge of voting for reparations at a national level. So I don't care about your personal guilt. It's about, and I love how Dr. Dirty put this. This is a matter of national responsibility, not personal guilt. Whether you want to feel guilty, that's your business or not. I don't care about that. But you got a national responsibility to remedy the badges and incidents of slavery. And you being identified right here, hey, you got the badge of slavery on you too.
That's right. Ooh.
And peep this, right? Peep this.
Talk to them.
They don't want to feel guilty about their ancestors' work pertaining to slavery, but they want to feel empowered and superior about their alleged ancestors' work in ancient Greece or ancient Rome or the kings of Europe or the discovery of America you see, they don't mind taking credit for all of that stuff and feeling empowered. We're going to make Columbus Day. We're going to make you know what I'm saying? We're going to do all of this fly shit. The white race did this, and the white race were really the Egyptians, and the white race was really the Carthaginians, and the white race was really the ancient Greeks that built all of that. And you know what I'm saying? But then when it comes to this, oh no, I'm not my ancestors.
We're gonna get to some of that. We're gonna get to some of that. And that's right. Some of the responses that the Republicans, right? Because not all refused to give comment to Reuters. Oh, some did respond. And some of what Ali and Josh just said about that responsibility part, well, we're going to see what they have to say. So let's read. I want to read Duckworth's comment. She's in an interview with Reuters. Senator Tammy Duckworth said she was not aware that her ancestors enslaved people, adding that it was, quote unquote, gut-wrenching to learn, but did not surprise her. I need to know more about Tammy Duckworth now. Quote, I think it's a disservice to our nation and our history to walk away from this. If I am going to claim and be proud that I am a daughter of the American Revolution, then I have to acknowledge that I am also a daughter of people who enslaved other people. And if we're going to do better as a country, and we're going to grow as a country, then we have to acknowledge that and learn from it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be America. Now, this, speaking of concurrent themes, you're going to see this concurrent theme with people that are aligned with the Democratic Party. And they're going to have similar responses like this. I can't wait to get to one of the right Republican responses to highlight that point of trying to shirk the responsibility of remedying and even being a descendant of the people that owned slaves in this country, because that's what narcissism is. This is funny. Lindsey Graham, his comment, let me see, in a statement to Reuters, an aide to Senator Lindsey Graham said, quote, Senator Graham has called slavery the original sin of the country. If slavery is the original sin of the country, Like, these people are admitting that they're devils. They are admitting that they are sinners. His ancestor, Joseph Maddox, owned 8 slaves. And to call it the original sin of the country is a tacit admission that the sins of the country continue.
That's right.
And this particular sin, slavery, transformed itself into something else, as Josh said a few moments ago. It was a sin of private bondage to the sin of public subjugation. And that's what we're faced with here.
The amnesty oaths that these guys were allowed to take under Andrew Johnson, to the point Josh was making, helped to restore them back to full citizenship, not just full citizenship and the ownership of their land again, but also they were able to become governors and senators and things like that. All of that stuff was restored back to them. These are the same people who not only owned slaves, but tried to overthrow the United States. Right? And they was able to be restored back to full citizenship through these amnesty pieces. At the same time, these folks are saying that they lost wealth and positionality, but their descendants are still in government. So the Confederates who tried to overthrow the government and own slaves were allowed to go back into government, and their descendants are still in government now, as we see through this article that's released, demonstrating that these people remained in positions of power. They didn't lose anything.
That's right.
Not only that.
To Sister and a shout out to Brother Anthony Dickinson. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. One thing also we also got to point out, and that is, somebody might be slick and try to say, well, aren't you a descendant of slave owners too? And that is true. That is true. We're talking about myself. We did a program, I think it was like going on 3 years ago, where I pulled out my lineage and going back to a slave owner. But we all know the means from which, my descent comes from. It doesn't come from generations of subsequent privilege or generations of subsequent, access via, elevated or privileged social political status. It doesn't come from none of that. It doesn't come from a generation of inheriting a bunch of goodies and stuff that America was allowing you to access. It comes from, we know it comes from rape. It comes from rape. It comes from not having the choice. And then, so that's totally different. Like Obama's mama situation is totally different than the average American freedman. We know the bloodline of American freedmen. The DNA tests consistently show a range of being descendants of people who ancestors were taken advantage of, and that produced part of our line, But that didn't equate to, for the vast majority of American freedmen, that didn't equate to the same type of access and lifestyle. And that's the reason why you don't see one American freedman president. You see minimal American freedmen United States senators. You see minimal American freedmen state governors. You see minimal American freedmen billionaires and people at the top ranks of society, because there's an inherited stain of slavery that we have to deal with that has been to our detriment and not to our benefit. And one last thing before I pass back to you, Brother Naheem. And this is going back to why we don't just want to talk about slavery. And so I want to see the follow-up article from Reuters to talk about who was a descendant of the Ku Klux Klan and the White League and all in the red shirts. I want to see who these people descendants are, because guess what? What you'll find is some of the same people are going to be on the list. So don't tell me about, oh, this is my ancestors. This was so long ago. This is not me. Yeah, but you talking about your father, your grandfather? these people, that's not that far back, you know. And were you? We just saw the article that came out. Well, it's been out for a while back. It got buzz again. Jerry Jones was at the Arkansas school, Arkansas. Well, it was like a Little Rock protest, the integration. That was not anybody's daddy. That was actually a person that's still a billionaire in power today. So I don't want to hear anything about a long time ago. That's a cop out. You're hiding. Stop all that.
Indeed, indeed. Powerful, powerful point, bro. And on this list, you can see the names of the slaves that Lindsey Graham's ancestors owned. Sam, I think that says Bella, Reuben, James, Sal, Green, Harry, and I can't make out that last name, but they have them listed. Randolph, Matt, that looks like Roy, maybe. They did their thing with this research, family. They did their thing. Now look at this guy right here, Bill Haggerty. His ancestor, Robert Dwiggins, owned 23 slaves. 23. Of course, he didn't provide any information to Reuters. Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire. Let's look up Maggie Hassan. Let's see if she's a Republican or a Democrat. Maggie Hassan. She's a Democrat. That's interesting that she didn't provide any comment. But her ancestor, John.
Hey, you cut out, man. Ali, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. So I don't know what happened. Just he kind of muted out. But I think that is very, very powerful that we're getting this particular information, and I think it's great that we'll be able to use this as we move forward in identifying these anti-reparationists and connecting them directly to slaveholders and the Confederacy, really. You know what I mean? Because pretty much the majority of these people were part of the Confederacy. Not saying all of them, but you know what I mean? Like we can connect that, and we could also, show the obstruction that these people posed for generations, man. Generations. And this is a line of decent. When you raise that point about them being able to having their citizenship restored, I think that was important because it really shows this line of descent from these particular people, these Confederates who were allowed to go back into government, and now we see their descendants still in government. You know what I'm saying? Still in government, still being obstructionists, still being anti-freedmen. As Thaddeus Stevens said, we want to crush to death these hated freedmen. And so we're still dealing with the conditions of these freed men and women, which has never really changed. And so I think that's important. It helps to solidify the points that we're making with regard to the status or the condition of the freedmen and the freedmen families, and how it has never really changed because these problems haven't been eradicated, and the people who continue these particular ideologies consistently stay in positions of power.
Oh, computer just like literally shut off and restarted.
That's crazy.
Y'all know I ain't with none of them conspiracy theories.
Oh, they came to get you. They came to get you.
They came and got you. Why is it not showing?
Oh man, that's hilarious, yo. That is hilarious.
That is. All right, so we're gonna get back into get back into let me pull my image up. It's my new favorite image. It's not coming up. I don't understand what's going on here. All right, for whatever reason, I cannot get my flag background backed up. Okay, well, it's all cool. It's all good. Let's continue. So, Maggie Hassan. I mean, again, we see Jack Abraham, Alexander, Dylan maybe, and Jerry. These were formerly enslaved people. I wonder if her people were, I wonder what state this was in. It doesn't get necessarily into that detail. Wait, hold on. There are links. Oh, they got. Let's see what happens when I click on these links.
The other thing I wanted to mention too, Josh, is because you brought up Europeans using this idea that black people were slave owners as well, right? And that's one thing, or the idea that some of us may descend from white slave owners by way of them raping our ancestor, great grandmothers and stuff like that. That's something that they should never try to use. The idea that you're a descendant of a rapist, hey, that just really speaks to the animalistic nature of your ancestors, man. That more than it does anything about me and being a beneficiary of slavery, because that doesn't prove that you were some kind of beneficiary because your grandmothers were being raped and stuff. Also, for me, when they start talking this stuff about slavery and the fact that certain black people owned slaves, we always got to remember that some of them black people, in many instances, were owning family members trying to protect them from white slave owners who would sell them down the river and stuff like that. They were trying to keep their families together and protect them from brutalization and abuses and mistreatments, right? Trying to keep the family together. I'm not saying that was always the case, but that was in many instances the case. Also, the fact is, for us, remember, the culpable party is the United States of America. That's why I personally like to point to the Declaration of Independence in terms of the principles of liberty that were embedded in that document that was supposed to be for all men, right? It didn't say all white men, it said all men, right? And so this is the cornerstone document and the principles that this country was founded upon, yet they alienated a certain segment of the citizenry from their God-given rights that they were supposed to protect as a government. You see what I'm saying? And so for me, it really is beyond race in this instance. It's about the fact that the government was established to protect the rights of men, these God-given unalienable rights, and they didn't do that for us. So them as a culpable party, to me, goes all the way back to their cornerstone document.
Indeed. Do I sound low to y'all?
Nah, you sound good
now.
to me.
Riri said I think that was Riri.
Not now. In the beginning, not now. You good.
All right. So let's read Martin's statement. And again, I'm gonna try to get through all of them, scroll through all of them, but we're not obviously gonna be able to read through all of it because the more we go, the more points are arising, and it's hard to not speak to those points because it's important in this conversation. So it says, in a statement to Reuters, Senator Martin Heinrich said, that is a funny name. Before you reached out, I didn't know this part of my genealogy. I've always been adamant that we fully reckon with our country's history, from the extraordinary horrors of slavery to forced boarding schools for Native children to Jim Crow segregation. Yeah, throw that in natives. And I've been proud to fight for reforms in the Senate that address ongoing systemic racism and injustices. But knowing that my own ancestors enslaved 12 people makes this work even more personal. We have so much more work to do, and I will never walk away from doing it. Family, I know my sister Roz wheels probably turning on this one. Let's start drafting up some letters so that we could start submitting to these individuals, fam. Like that's a conversation we can have on the back end, of course. But Let's start organizing around reaching out to those people that want to do something about this and making sure that this isn't just lip service. Somebody, Michael, if you was going to say something, Josh?
Yeah, and I just want to say, when people talk about, oh, I had my ancestor a slave. Well, I mean, unless he was a first generation immigrant or something like that, and he got into slavery like that, it's probably his daddy. He probably inherited some slaves, and his daddy inherited some slaves, or whatever the situation was. So it's just for semantics. It's probably way more than 12. It's probably more than 12. It's generations as well. It's generations of people who were inherited down to that last one that you could trace. The one that you're talking about is the last one you're tracing. You got to think about his daddy and his daddy and his daddy, and so on, or mama, because they were passing slaves through their lines too. They were inheriting from husbands. They were inheriting from their fathers. They were gifted slaves through marriage. When they got married, the family would gift the new married couple slaves. All this kind of stuff is very important. And another thing to the family part, because if anybody else did want to try to bring up that conversation, talk to some of the people who are the freedmen, or descendants of the freedmen family, who have freedmen ancestors, and they'll tell you. A lot of us know the white people today who have the same family name we have, that probably know a lot more about our ancestry than even we do. They keep it to themselves. I know in my family, on my mom's side of the family, stories about that. We know they know all about us, but see, they kept us at a distance. They kept us at a distance, so we never really had contact or with any of these other family members. We never I don't want to get into my story, but I'm just gonna say, running into people at random and you have that conversation. Imagine you run into some white person on a random, and you have the conversation, and because they have the same last name that's in your family, come to find out that's actually one of your family members. And they know all about you, and they know all about your side of the family. You don't know anything about their side of the family and what they have, what was going on with them. And they took advantage of whiteness, and we just had to eat the disadvantage of being a freedman, the hated freedman. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Indeed. So hold on, let me get this off of here. Chris Van Hollen, again, Democrat. The knowledge that I have, ancestors that participated in this evil institution of slavery causes me to reflect even more personally about what I have always believed and acted on, that we have a moral imperative to confront the legacy and impact of our nation's original sin with honesty and purposeful action, right? So, the Democrats are consistent in their messaging, and the Republicans are consistent in no messaging and a specific type of messaging. Now look at Nathan Calhoun, right? Who's the ancestor of this man right here, John Kennedy of Louisiana. This guy owned 65 slaves. 65. You know how many people 65 people look like? 65 people could look like 200 people in the right setting. Could you imagine 65 people that were owned by Nathan Calhoun? And this is why these demons are in government, trying to preserve their covenant with death and their pact with hell to keep our ancestors enslaved. I mean, look at the extent. Of course, you're going to have extensive records when you have 65 slaves. They name a lot of them in these screen captures here. Angus King, a U.S. senator from Maine, if I'm not mistaken, isn't he Democrat? Let me see. He is a Why doesn't it say? That's interesting.
You know, there's a white descendant of slavery. I think she's in office in the state house in some state that wants to reestablish the Confederate flag in her state.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. You know what's crazy? I don't see Democrat or Republican.
We should look up that woman because I can't remember her name, but we should look her up. The one that wants to raise the flag, the Confederate flag in the state, and see if she's on that list that Reuters put out.
That's right. That's right. He's an independent. That's why this wasn't coming up. A D or R, no comment. James Lankford, U.S. Senator of Oklahoma. His ancestor Edmund Dillihay. Mitch McConnell, of course. His ancestor Joseph Farrington owned 12 slaves. Let's read his comment. In a statement to Reuters, an aide to Senator Mitch McConnell said NBC News did a story on this in 2019. At the time, leader Mitch McConnell was asked about reparations and said this: I don't think reparations for something that happened 150 years ago, for whom none of us currently living are responsible, is a good idea. Remember, Dr. Phil said that on his panel discussion that he had on reparations. White supremacy is white supremacy. We've, tried to deal with our original sin of slavery by fighting a civil war, by passing landmark civil rights legislation. We elected an African-American president. I think we're always a work in progress in this country, but no one currently alive was responsible for that act. And I don't think we should be trying to figure out how to compensate for it. Notice everything he says is confined to slavery. First of all, it would be pretty hard to figure out who to compensate. Well, I'm guessing they would know that's false, right? If we can track the slave masters, we can surely track the slaves. And if we can track the slaves, we can surely track the descendants who are the emancipated persons, the free men and women, just like they were able to track you, Mitch McConnell, just like and everybody else that's on its list. He said, we have had waves of immigrants as well who've come to the country and experienced dramatic discrimination of one kind or another. So no, I don't think reparations are a good idea. I mean, we could really just do a whole 2 hours breaking down everything he said, because those white waves of immigrants were given 160-acre land plots. The Italians, they faced a little bit of discrimination in this country, but they became white. And their Bank of Italy is today's Bank of America. They were able to capitalize off of criminality in the Northeast and out in the Midwest. In fact, the mafia built Sin City. Speaking of the country's original sin, they built Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada. I mean, there's so many different ways we can break down what Mitch McConnell said, but we know that he's wrong and he's a devil and he's just doing the bidding of his ancestors, right? And we can use their Bible and break down that verse, John 8:44, that says, ye are of your father the devil. He was a murderer from the beginning. Truth abides not in him. And when he lies, he speaks of his own, for he is a liar and father of lies. I know I butchered that, but that's John 8:44. I could get preachy on him in here, Josh, going in on this topic.
Well,
Gary Peters, his ancestors, Richard H. Garrett, direct ancestor, owned 22 slaves, no comment. Jean Shaheen. Okay, let's see what this is just another. Was she Democrat? Yeah, she's a Democrat. Let me see. I want to be sure you had an important piece of biographical information on here. As you see, her entry as politics was through President Carter's campaign. After she heard, okay, well, she's just trying to clean it up. Like, no, I'm not. I'm not. Although I have slave holding ancestors, I came through the left wing of this thing. Richard Shelby. I mean, just the name Shelby alone sounds Southern slave racist holdingish, but his ancestor's name was Aaron Campbell, who owned 20 slaves. He provided no comment, and you can see a list of some of the slaves: Betty, Joe, Jane, Mary, what is that? Barrett. I'm not going to try to read all of them because I can't. Cindy Hyde Smith, ancestor, Allison C. Brister, 13 slaves, no comment. Debbie Stabenow. We just going to start scrolling through some of these stuff. Tom Tillers, where everybody's familiar with certain of these individuals. Tommy Tuberville, who opened up for Trump in a speech in Alabama last year and basically said we're criminals and we want reparations for the crimes that we did. And that was...
But he's a descendant. He's a slavery descendant.
A slavery descendant, right? So that's right. To be clear,
so
slavery descendant.
Let me ask you this, right? All of these people that you're naming are federal legislators and stuff like that. None of these people are state or local.
Last one of these people are federal legislators.
Okay, so could you imagine how much that list would grow if we decided to include representatives in various state houses in the South or throughout the country?
Man, listen, they probably thought about it. It was like, you know what? That's too much. Let's just put out what we have, because this is a lot. Let's just put out what we have. No, Sister Satra, hold on. We got to address this. She said, I was taught the true Confederates are native tribes, and the Articles of Confederation were the natives. The natives gave this info to Benford. That is not true, sis.
Well, look, because they had the Iroquois Confederacy, right? So what the Pretendians have done was try. Yes.
Yeah, that is not true.
What the Pretendians tried to do was conflate the whole Iroquois Confederacy thing with the Confederate States of America as if it's one and the same thing. It's not. It's not. And when the United States was formed, they formed under the Articles of Confederation, right? And so because they may have been influenced by the way the Iroquois Confederacy was doing stuff, they're trying to make it seem as if it's all the same thing. It's not. The Iroquois Confederacy is its own confederacy. The Confederate States of America was its own confederacy. It had nothing to do with each other. Two separate things. Confederacy is a type of government. That's it.
Speaking of Pretendians, next up on the list, Elizabeth Warren, Pretendian par excellence. Her direct ancestor, John Crawford, had 14 slaves. In a statement to Reuters, Senator Elizabeth Warren said, quote, the legacy of slavery still casts a long shadow over every facet of American life, including Congress. While we cannot change the past, I am fighting in the Senate to address systemic injustices through word, deed, law, and policy. You're not fighting hard enough, Elizabeth. You're just not fighting hard enough. Roger Wicker. That sounds like a his ancestors owned 9 slaves.
Mississippi, say less.
That's right, Mississippi. And let me read those too. Robert Adderholt, U.S. Rep from Alabama, no comment. Look at this guy. Oh my God. Sheesh. Rick W. Allen, U.S. Representative from Georgia, direct and ancestor Uriah Harris, who owned 133 slaves. Sheesh. Come on, my guy. You could have gave us a statement. You could have gave us something to read. We know you got them images of
on your wall.
That's right. What's my man name that was the president of the Confederacy?
Jefferson Davis.
Jefferson Davis. We know you got the Jefferson Davis cup holders and mugs and the General Lee. Come on. You could have gave us a statement, man. Jody Arrington from Texas. But remember how we started today's stream. We started today's stream talking about Brian Babbitt, who introduced an article of legislation in the Texas House to cut off federal funding for any state that gives reparations. Now, why would Brian Babbitt do something like this? Well, because Brian Babbitt, U.S. rep from Texas, has a direct ancestor who was a slaveholder by the name of Francois R. El Puente, which is a very weird name for a quote-unquote white Anglo-Saxon in the South. But nonetheless, that was his name. He had 4 slaves that he owned. And Babin is doing his duty as a Confederalist. I just made that up, I think. A Confederalist. He's doing his duty as a Confederalist to say, reparations. We must keep our foot on the neck of the Negro in this country by any means necessary. We are to never let them feel like they have the status of freedmen. No way, no how. But it's too late, Brian Babin, because we are already here. And you are witnessing our rise, and you are witnessing our resurrection. And there's just nothing that you can do about that at all. Let me read this comment real quick. Okay, hold on, Josh. Let me read this comment. Rick W. Allen and Dina Titus. First, honors for the contribution, Black Contraband. Rick W. Allen and Dina Titus come from the largest slaveholding families. How many descendants do you think were created from holding 133 and 183 persons collectively? That is a good question. So that means we're going to get to somebody on this list named Dina Titus soon. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I was just trying to see if you could bring up the definition of Confederacy.
I think Confederacy refers to a...
I got it right here. I can read it. I just wanted to see if you could bring it up so they can figure. I read it.
All right, go ahead.
I'll read it. Hold on, let me get back to my... Can you hear me?
Yep.
It says, all right, Confederacy, a league or alliance, especially of Confederate states. And then another one is another term for the Confederate States of America. It's as a proper noun. But, and this one says, an alliance of people or groups formed for an illicit purpose. So we can say that the Confederacy, in terms of the proper noun, the Confederate States of America, was destroyed upon the end of the Civil War. However, we can say that the lowercase c Confederacy was not destroyed because that's how they overthrew Reconstruction. They were a group, all these groups, the Klan, the White League, and all these groups, the Red Shirts, these were groups that allied for an illicit purpose, which is mass murder, terrorism, the fighting against the franchise for the freedmen and full citizenship for the freedmen. And they remained allied all the way through the end of the Civil War, killing Lincoln, all the way through the subsequent terror and Jim Crow. They remain alive in the Congress. Even there's a congressional confederacy right now because these people are still, in alliance for an illicit purpose. What's going on against our people in America is a crime. We've never received justice, but they're able to do it through seemingly legitimate means. But I would say, if as long as we don't receive justice, it's still the perpetuation of a crime. It's justice not being served, and that to me constitutes that we're still dealing with Confederacy. That's why you hear us use the term neo-Confederates, because it's people that are still in alliances for illicit purposes.
Yeah, yep. You were sounding a little staticky towards the end there, but we heard you though. I just wanted to make you aware of that. So yeah, fam, man, this guy Brian Babin, I just put the link in the chat. Y'all make sure y'all pull that link up. This guy's introducing legislation to cut off federal funding from states that will do local reparations. These devils want to starve us out. That's why we got to fight, family. That's why we have to move in unison, and we got to put the BS to the side, and we got to get it right. And that's why at the beginning of this live stream, I spoke about the fact that this is not us trying to diss the group, the organization, American Descendants of Slavery. Although we have every right to. They come at us all the time. Not only do they come at us, they come at the people that we work with. But we wanted to highlight that slavery is an institution. And that NBC article, that NBC article captured properly the title that these are America's slavery descendants right here that we're looking at. These are America's slavery descendants. So let's keep going. Jim Banks from Indiana. I mean, some of these names we're familiar with. Again, Andy Barr, Kentucky. I'm gonna try to get through the rest of these because I want to have.
Oh boy. Oh, I mean, one more point we gotta bring out. If you look at the Dr. Derry talks about this point in his book, but these are talking about direct ancestors and people who own slaves. But we got to understand that it's not just about if your daddy owned a slave. It's about a lot of these other people, if they included the people who had slaves in their family. In other words, who the person that was their father or their mother had their parents owned slaves or their brothers owned slaves, so they benefited from all the slave labor through their family. Some other, like if you included all those people, this list would expand greatly. So I just want to, it's not just about direct ancestors owning, it's also about being a beneficiary of slave labor and right, having that advantage. Go ahead.
And that this report can actually, even if you just focused on these individuals and how that the benefit of that labor branches out from then into now, that's a whole nother report where you could focus on these anti-reparationists, these newer versions of the White League and the Ku Klux that occupy these offices. Then it paints a clearer picture. It paints a clearer picture. So this guy, Andy Biggs of Arizona, U.S. Rep, his ancestor, Robert Mosley, owned 44 slaves. Let's go. Dan Bishop, North Carolina, 5 slaves. Earl Blumenauer, I think. Let's see what he is, Republican or Democrat. Let's see. He's a Democrat. He's a Democrat of Oregon's 3rd district. So his ancestor only owned 1 slave. And let me not say only. I will never say that again. His ancestor owned a human that was titled and given the title slave. Excuse me. Let's be clear. These were human beings. These were our ancestors. And his comment, I was truly shocked to learn that a distant ancestor whom I have never even heard of owned and participated in America's great sin of slavery. This revelation propels me to redouble my efforts to create a more equitable union, including looking at appropriate reparations, rebuilding communities that were divided, and ensuring that everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed. See, now it's on us, family. Now it's on us, the descendants of the people that his ancestors owned, to put his feet to the fire and say, we got your quotes here, fam. We're gonna live up to these or what? put that pressure on. We got to start putting the pressure on these people. Carolyn Bordeaux. This was an interesting one that I read earlier, but I can't remember if she was Republican. Yeah, she's a Democrat from out of Georgia. And let me see. She said, my family, many branches of which are deeply Southern, is very aware of its history and the legacy of slavery, segregation, and the ongoing challenge of racism. My father's family also owned slaves, and both of my parents were always quite clear that the Civil War was about slavery, and slavery corrupted everything it touched. While there are many threads and themes throughout the history of any family, this legacy and the regular confrontation of race, racism, and social justice is a significant thread in the life of my family, my parents. But this is a long thing. I'm not going to read through it, but she said, I campaigned in one of the most diverse districts in the South, through George Floyd, through one race-based crisis after the next, and had to hold together a very diverse coalition across 5 elections to finally become the only Democrat in the country to flip a seat in 2020. So, okay, you right here in the state of Georgia, we're going to put your feet to the fire. We're going to make these people live up to this stuff. So we got Mo Brooks. Now, I know Mo Brooks is a Republican. His ancestor owned an enslaved individual. It says, in an interview with Reuters, former Representative Mo Brooks said, it's always good to know history. How much it helps on this particular issue, I don't know, because hopefully everybody in America is smart enough to know that slavery is abhorrent. So the question that becomes, if everybody knows that it's abhorrent, what more can you teach from that?
So why not? Why you even need to teach on it? Just take it up out of there.
Let's just move on. Move on from it. Just forget about it. There's no need.
Yeah, he done moved on up to U.S. Congress.
That's right. Off of off the wealth that his ancestor, probably off of that one enslaved individual. We don't know. That one enslaved individual could have been sold and produced some of the other enslaved individuals that some of these other people own. Who knows? And some of that wealth in Alabama especially probably is the reason why he had the money in his own coffers and the donations of other former slave holding Alabamians or Alabamians, or however you say that, to his coffers so that he could run and be a U.S. rep in Alabama.
But not only wealth, but non-denigrated status. So instead of being made a criminal, instead of being made a disabled citizen, again, these people were allowed to have an elevated status. They were allowed to become a lot of these people were heroes. That were, like we talked about earlier, given blanket pardons, were given land restoration, and were not ever made to have justice served against them for the crimes that they committed against the freedmen. All of these things for the attempts at overthrowing the government. These people were not prosecuted. Murder, terrorism, theft, they were not prosecuted. How are you still able to have elevated status after all of that? So that's why that elevated status and that not have a denigrated status, a lot of that stuff is passed down as family reputation that equates to some of these people are not first generation politicians. So a lot of these people are multi-generations in because they get to come from the privilege and the elevated status that they got to hold on to all the way from slavery.
That's right. And Sister Shanna brings up an excellent point. And it don't mean another relative did not own people. They are looking at their grandparents, parents, etc. What about that uncle, aunt, cousin of that bloodline? That's right, sis. That's right. So let's scroll. Man, well, we could get through. We'll get through this whole list because we're not gonna list everybody. Tim Burchett, U.S. Rep from Tennessee. Kevin Calvert, U.S. Rep from California. Did I pass somebody? Yeah, I did want to read this. Julia Brownlee, a U.S. Rep from California. If I'm not mistaken, I looked up earlier. She's a Democrat. She said it hits my core when she learned among those her ancestors had enslaved was they have a typo here, children as young as 8. It probably meant to just say a child as young as 8. Learning about her ancestry deepened her commitment and responsibility to legislation on equity and equal opportunity. She said, quote, I think in almost everything I do and am involved in, it is certainly around bringing justice, bringing equity to the table. Well, we don't know what equity actually means anymore because it has a whole new complexion nowadays.
And so we should know how she's voting in the event that California reparations should so in the event, I should say we should know how she's voting in the event the reparations happen from California, and we should know who she's going to be leaning on for support in the vote in the state state vote on reparations bill. We should count on her using her congressional power and her influence or whatever to support that legislation in the state and her endorsement.
And make sure y'all say equity. Tim Burchett, U.S. Representative from Tennessee. We know Ken Calvert, U.S. Rep from California. Okay, Buddy Carter, his ancestor owned, and Benjamin Newton owned 11 enslaved persons. And he's
no response.
Georgia.
All these people, no response.
No response. John Carter, U.S. Rep from Texas. His ancestor, John J. Galt Jr., owned 79 persons. 79 persons. Ali, we never did the live stream called The Unconstitutionality of Slavery. We have to debunk this idea that slavery was illegal. Because we've been talking about doing that live stream for like 2 years.
Yeah, we need to do that.
Funny. But now let's keep that in the forefront of our brain to finally get that live stream done. The unconstitutionality of slavery. We need to break that down. Because we have to get people, because even some of our academics are running around teaching that slavery was legal. No, slavery was not legal, because anything that's unconstitutional cannot be legal on its face. That's why they have a thing called a facial challenge, where an individual can challenge a law or an ordinance or a statute that has directly affected them in some way. And they must render a response. I believe that goes to the Attorney General of the state. And the Attorney General, it's been years since I looked this up, the Attorney General then has to state if that law is actually constitutional or not. So, we gotta get back into that. Get into that. Do that. That live stream. Madison Cawthorn, a rep from North Carolina. The fact that they got the records and they highlight the names, and seeing some of these names and understanding how we got these European names today, even that is kind of a gut shot in many instances. But it is prima facie proof that we were in fact harmed by this country, starting with the institution of slavery and us being being terrorized thereafter. Steve Shabbat, U.S. Rep from Ohio. His ancestor, William Tilley, owned 4 persons. Comment in the statement to Reuters, former Representative Steve Shabbat said Slavery is an abomination, whether it took place 160 years ago in this country or as it takes place today in certain parts of the Middle East, Africa, and China. Let's see what Steve Chabot. Let's see if, of course,
Man,
he's a
he probably
Republican.
from them parts of Ohio. You ain't trying to spend too much time there, man.
That's a fact. He probably is the rep from a sundown town somewhere. Jeez, my man said Middle East. They find every type which way. These are some of the craziest. Liz Cheney, her ancestor, Thomas H. McGaw, had 8 enslaved persons. It wasn't able to reach her. Her spokesperson and her spouse did not respond to the information. They didn't even say, you know what, no response. They didn't even say that. Sheesh, that is crazy. That is crazy. Man, I thought I had the link on here. But here's what it is. Bill Klein. Go ahead, bro.
And now let me ask you this. So, number of enslaved, you notice they didn't, I like to talk about the language that's used. You notice they didn't use number of slaves. But if you were to call them by another name other than slave, what would be another name that you probably call those? Because when we saw like slave auctions, they didn't say the number of enslaved. They said what? What did they say when they? That's right, Negroes for sale. Negroes for sale. But they could have said blacks for sale. They could have said Africans for sale. They could have said darkies for sale. They could have said Sambos for sale. They could have said mammies for sale. They could have said heifers for sale. They could have said all these.
Say winches. They did say
winches. Yeah, winches. I mean, we see all this.
Negresses and winches. Yep.
They said all that. Now, did they ever say freedmen for sale?
Of course not.
No.
Why not?
Because those are freed people.
Okay. I just got to bring that up. So, that you can't use those two as synonymous. Because one is associated with the soul. Those people were those are the names that solely referred to people who were slaves. I should put it should put it in the reverse. The people who were enslaved or had the status of a slave, they were all people who were called Negroes, blacks, Africans, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Mammies, coons, Sambos, winches.
Darkies,
that's right.
Winches, pickaninnies.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say coons already? You said coons?
We name them all. But the status of freedmen, that's right, niggers. Niggers is a big one.
Yeah, well,
niggers
and Negro is the same word.
We got a question. If we can prove that slavery was illegal, can we sue the government? That's a great question.
The government got to allow itself to be sued.
Has to allow itself to be sued. Has to allow itself. Like that like this conversation has layers to it that I don't think have been fully explored. We have had these conversations in our back channel, of course. And again, in the Constitution, which is the social compact that this country has with each other through its representatives at the governmental level, whether that be state or federal, but particularly in this case, federal, there's a simple provision that says to petition the government for a redress of grievances. We got a family. We can win this thing. We can make this a spotlight issue. we can get the world's eyes on this issue as well. We just got to pull this thing together, family. Just pull it together. I don't care if you don't like me or BTP, and I say that a lot. And I try, when I go back and watch the replays, I tell myself, I'm going to stop saying that. But it's just like, I got to stress that because it's not about me. Shit is not about me or BTP. We're just purveyors or conveyors, of the information. That's it. That's it. Somebody said you can't sue a de facto government. I don't know what this guy's talking about.
Hey, Josh, if you can, pull up the definition of de facto before we let that statement go. Let's pull up the definition of de facto and then go from there.
All right, well, I'll read
De
it.
facto.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, bro.
De facto, adverb, in fact, or in effect, whether by right or not. Adjective, denoting someone or something that is such in fact.
In fact. Okay.
In reality or as a matter of fact. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I wanted to point that out because I know that there's a lot of terminology that people use coming out of certain circles and certain spaces.
Like the Moorish circle.
That's being used incorrectly. And one of the terms is de facto. And that's why I wanted you to read that. Another term is fiat. I want, at some point we're going to have to deal with this fiat thing because people use that as if that's some kind of boogeyman terminology.
That's right. That's right. Y'all know how BTP does. Family, if you're watching right now, hit that like button. If you're watching from Facebook or on Twitter, come over to the YouTube channel. Just hit the like button. Just hit that like button. That don't cost you anything. But if you would like to support the platform, $ be the power, of course, is the Cash App. You can use the super chat. You can send donations directly to our website. We are promoting a lecture tour. And do not forget tomorrow, family, that there's going to be a debate between me and a guy named Randy Perham. He's a Black Republican, and let me pull that up real quick. He's a Black Republican, and he believes that he can take me in a debate. He called for the smoke. I mean, he called for it. I'm like, okay. You're brave. I like them brave. I like them brave. But you're going to have to get this work. You are going to have to get this work. So y'all make sure y'all tune in tomorrow night at 7. All right, let's get back to some of this. We're not going to get through all of it. I was hoping to get through all of at least just the names. But, some of it it's a lot. And there's some commentary that just comes out from reading it. So we know that this guy, Louis Gohmert, we know that this guy is a staunch racist Republican. His ancestor, Robert M. Lindsay, had 11 enslaved persons or persons enslaved. And he said, it says in an interview with Reuters, former Representative Louis Gohmert said, quote, "That surprises me," after being told his ancestors had enslaved people. The former congressman said he wasn't aware of having an ancestor who lived in Bowie County, Texas in 1860. Gohmert said that he would review the material given to him by Reuters. Like, I didn't even know I had an ancestor in Bowie County in 1860. I didn't even know. Right? So,
you think it's a game, man.
Yep. So we just going to scroll. Sam Graves, his U.S. rep from Missouri. I mean, he looks like a Republican. Don't it seem like the Republicans just got like a certain type of look? It's like the modern day Republicans, let me say. They look just like the old Democrats. I wish they go back into the Democratic Party, but his ancestor William T. Burris owned 27 slaves.
They are Democrats, bro.
That's right.
this is why remember when Sister Sunny was saying in her space that they do Democrat business. That's why these so-called Republicans want to pump the Confederate flag, because that's Democrat business. These people are really Democrats. The Republicans don't want to pump no Confederate flag unless you're really a Democrat.
That's right. That's right. You know, we just scrolling. Jody Heiss, whom I'm familiar with out here in Georgia. You know, I'm not surprised by some of these, obviously, but the fact that this work was done tells us all that the work can be done. So let's look at French Hill, a U.S. rep from Arkansas. Look at this guy. His ancestor, Creed Taylor, owned 70 enslaved persons, and of course, he's a Republican, right? Let's see what his statement says. From biblical times until today, human bondage is a scourge. At our nation's founding, slavery was a sad, unresolved burden. In pursuit of a more perfect union, our nation tore itself apart in civil war and united in the passage of the 13th and 15th Amendments to our Constitution. You forgot one there, buddy. We as a nation must recognize our past, learn from it, and look to the future. Okay, I like that comment. That
I got something to say about that. But
go ahead, bro.
Go ahead, Ali.
I just want to start with this piece, right? And y'all can go into the other part. The nation didn't tear itself apart. White men tried to destroy the nation. Let's just be clear. I don't care what political party you want to call them. White men tried to destroy the nation. White men were in the process trying to overthrow the United States government because they felt that it was their God-given right to have so-called Negroes as their property. That's what happened. So the freedmen, as our brother Grim would say, the freedmen were the ones who had to enforce the Constitution.
That's right.
Okay. That's all I want to say about that, because these people's perspective is so off.
Now, it was important to scroll through all of these because people might be watching from any part of the country, and they might maybe not even right now, but this is going to circulate and people are going to see their representative on there. We know a lot of people.
I'm not reading all of them. I'm making sure to just not scroll past them, right? I'm
That's right.
You know, let me see. Rick Larson. Let's look him up real quick. Let's see. He is a Democrat, of course. Man, that's so much to read. I don't want to read all of this, man. I am saddened to find out that historical records show my sixth great-grandfather, John Wiggins, owned 3 enslaved people in the 1820s. I knew, like all of us know, that enslavement is an ugly part of U.S. history. I now know it is a part of my own family's history. Sound like he was trying to, I don't know, by emphasizing that he had, you know, it was his sixth great-grandfather. It seemed like
he trying to distance himself.
Such a long time ago statement. Nah, we ain't letting you slide up out of that, bruh.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Keep going down, bro, because I see you're gonna see something that's gonna trigger you. Go ahead and read that third.
All of this.
Read the fourth paragraph.
I acknowledge the shameful history that the United States has not fully escaped even today. Oh God. Leaders in the BIPOC community and my district continue to reveal past and present racism and work to build a new and better future. I honor them. Oh my God, and will continue to offer my support to them and to seek their counsel for my work in Congress. This is not a BIPOC issue. This is not a DEI issue. This is not a POC issue. This is an American issue that has to deal with a specific group of people whose families endured harm in this country, starting with the institution of slavery and then continuing with their subsequent freedom and terrorism. Not only physical terrorism, we were and physical genocide. We were subjected to medical terrorism or medical genocide. We were subjected to financial and economic genocide and terrorism. We were victims to all forms of terrorism and genocide in this nation. They put drugs in our neighborhood. That's chemical warfare. Then they penalized us for it because they knew we were poor and that would be our only source of income. This depleted the black male population in this country to the tune that there are more black men in prison in this country per capita than any other group. There are more of our men in prison in this country than there are women imprisoned around the whole world combined. This is not BIPOC and DEI and POC work. That has to go.
Did you know that white people would not only, like they did in Harlem, where they would burn down the buildings in the 70s, the late 60s, early 70s, into 70s. Not only were they burning down the buildings to get insurance money, they actually continued to own the vacant lots, and they were deliberately keeping those lots vacant because it actually from a tax perspective, it actually benefited them. My cousin Purse was breaking this shit down to me one day. He was talking about how, he was like, yeah, you're right. They did burn the buildings down and take insurance money, but they also continued to own all of those burnt out vacant lots in New York and in Detroit and places like that, because it benefited them to keep our areas in despair like that, and to be able to some kind of way they were benefited from it on taxes and shit too.
Crazy. This is the reality. And so when we go to Washington on every campaign from here on out, we're coming to get our check. So let's look at Nancy Mace, U.S. representative out of South Carolina. I mean, she still got the namesake. She's the only one on this list, if I'm not mistaken, so far, whose name is still the same name. Surname is still the same surname. I
seen at least one of them.
Oh, you seen one more? Okay, I missed that. Yep, Drusilla Mace. Her ancestors. Oh, well, Drusilla Mace, excuse me. Drusilla is a female name. Owned 15 and referenced the book. They were her property. It's so crazy. I was looking for some beats today. And, when the movement was all together, I got an email from a sister that sent me a PDF of that book. They were her property. I was looking for some beats, and I found this track that Josh sent me. Y'all don't know, my bro Josh got bars. And one day, I'm gonna play some of Josh bars on BTP Live. Because that joint I heard today was from 2015. And my bro was spitting some hot fire. I was like, oh, I don't even remember this. I remember the other tracks you sent me, but not that one. We might play that live one day. My brother Josh got some bars. Now let's see what Nancy Mace says. In a statement to Reuters, Representative Nancy Mace said, I don't recognize these people's name and can't confirm that they are relatives. Oh, so Mace doesn't. So when you see the Mace, that didn't kind of like ring a bell there? It's like, you can't confirm that they are relatives? She said, slavery was a stain on this country, and we as Americans should be grateful for the progress we've made since the 1860s. Ain't that something? These people will deny their own bloodlines to skirt the responsibility of repairing properly and fully repairing the American freedmen.
Hey, what state is that?
South Carolina.
Oh, yeah. All right.
You know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like how they always tell you, we need to just be grateful to all of the white men that died to free us during the Civil War. That's what it sounds like to
That's
me.
exactly what it sounds like. That is exactly what it sounds like.
Mhm. The same ones that fought to overthrow the United States and form the Confederate States of America. The
Yep.
same ones that assassinated the president at that time. The same ones who tried to overthrow not only the United States after the Confederacy capitulated, after the freedmen whooped them and saved the nation, but the same ones who tried to overthrow New Orleans and Wilmington and all these other places around the country. Come on, man.
That's right. Sister Fate said they probably own some of Clyburn's people. This woman, this was the wildest one out of all of them. And I don't recognize these people's names. What you mean, the slaves? I'm like, and can't confirm that they are relatives. With Drusilla Mace? You trying to tell me you can't trace yourself back to Drusilla?
Hey, look, man, that's a 5 generation. It don't even say like 6, 7 generations.
5
All right,
generations.
so check this out. Let's say she's 40. She looked like I don't see too much cracking. Maybe 40.
Maybe 40.
Okay, so that means her mama was probably 60 something or 70. Let's say her mama is 70. Let's say her grandmama was 100. So that's how many generations. That's mama, grandma. That's 2 generations. The great grandma was 120 because they was having them young back in the day. Let's say the great grandma was 150. Great grandma was so that's like 100 and what? 170 years ago. This is 2023. Yeah, that make a lot of sense. Oh, you got see, yo, that's so you can just pull it right on up.
Look at this.
Yo, this website is ill, man.
That's right. But look at
right.
What you gonna do with me? I sure been here in slavery time. Talk to them soldiers when they was retreating their way back home. My old missus was Miss Mary Godbold, and then she married a Hazelden. They buy my mama from the old man Frank Miles right over yonder. Harry on Cindy Goldbowl was my parents. We live in a 1-room house in the slave quarter there on the white folks plantation. Man, come on, man. Man, Reuters did one hell of a job with this right here. Of course, I ain't going to read through this whole thing. Y'all got that link in the chat. Make sure y'all check it out. And I'm going to put it in there again for anybody that just joined. Jeesh. Yeah, Sister Roz, I think I've traced my ancestors 5. Yep, I think I traced my 5 generations back as well.
Yeah, I got multiple lines. Multiple lines that far back.
Yep.
I got multiple lines. Yeah, I mean, these people, they're liars, man. We can go on Ancestry.com and probably could link back to some of these people, man.
That's right.
Heck yeah, we could do that. All we got to do is put the names in and create the tree. We create the tree ourselves. That's easy. They gave you all the information.
That's right. So this is somebody from New York, her Carolyn Maloney, U.S. Rep, her direct ancestor, David Clegg. She said, I was shocked to learn this information. My family and I have reflected on this and had meaningful discussions about it. I am deeply proud to be an American, but that also comes with an acknowledgement that this country caused deep harm by allowing slavery to exist. Like, I want to start getting into these people's records and how they voted on certain things. You could see now you want to give these statements about the things that you want to do to help this and help that. And so far as advancing justice, and when I say equity, I mean equity for the freedmen. Like, let's look into their records. Well, how have they voted? Like, this gives us homework assignments. Those that are interested, we got homework assignments to do from this. People slave by
You know what's interesting? All these people that want to say that kind of stuff, I bet you they against slavery and is abhorrent, but they the same people that's voting to perpetuate the badges and incidents of slavery. Ain't that something?
That's right. Barry Moore, ancestors, William Thompson owned 19 people. It's a lot of people, man. Mark Wayne Mullen, former U.S. Rep from Oklahoma. Let me see.
Oh, so I just realized this is in alphabetical order. We only at the M's? Yo, we finna be here all night.
Oh, y'all only, damn, you right, bro. I didn't even peep that. Look at this guy, Ralph. Now, we ain't going to be here all night. Ralph Norman, U.S. representative from South Carolina. Man, 61 enslaved. Let's see what Rep. Norman said. Rep. Norman has long been aware of the fact that his ancestors owned slaves, as did most of 1/3 I want to see what he had to say.
His office probably released a press release. Yeah.
Other than perhaps names, I don't believe he knows details about the individuals who were slaves of his ancestors, but would assume he and his present-day family members might be interested in some of these details if they were readily available. All right. Palazzo. That's a unique name for Mississippi. That sounds like a northern name.
Yeah, somebody was Italian, recent ancestor.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
38. Sheesh. And you're right. I got to remember that, marriage and all of that stuff comes into play. Okay. Let's see. August Pfluger. We in the P's though, Josh. It's moving. I just realized that. Oh, I did not mean to do that. Let's see what this guy's. I know he's Republican. Yeah, of course. In a statement to Reuters, Representative August Pfluger said, quote, "While I have no knowledge of this individual and have not verified the familial connection, I hope we can all agree that slavery was an abhorrent evil."
What's his name? Oh, never heard of him. Never heard of him.
No, I never heard of Hardeman Dunning. He's my ancestor? This guy's 7 generations removed. 7 generations removed. All right, David Price. We're going to just show Tom Rice, former representative. This is somebody's name that I'm familiar with.
64.
64.
God.
Sheesh. Hal Rogers, John Rose, David Roser, Chip Roy.
Hey, you notice the vast majority of these people are from the South?
Oh, of course. Almost all of them. There's a few sprinklings of the North in here, but almost all of these people are from the South. Look at this guy, Pete Sessions. Is he related to Jeff Sessions? Goodness. Representative from Texas. Number of enslaved, 96. Sheesh. And y'all don't want to make us whole? Y'all are going to make us whole. Or else fire and brimstone will rain down from out of the heavens onto the heads of Pharaoh and all of his. Let me get preachy on him. Van Taylor. I mean, we almost finished. William Timmons. We got another one. Look, Josh, you see that? This guy's named after the direct ancestor. They said we're gonna
go back. Oh, damn.
We're gonna groom you to be political, William. And you are going.
I wonder. Yo, you know what's crazy? I know a bunch of freedmen from South Carolina with the last name Timmons.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I know one of them personally. Was a nephew or cousin or something, was Lawrence Timmons from used to play for the Steelers.
Crazy.
Man, got the direct slave owner name right here on our people.
Now, this is Dana Titus, who was brought up earlier in the live chat. U.S. Rep from Nevada, direct ancestor, Francis Hopkins. Number of enslaved, 183 people.
No comment.
These are some of the names.
Yo, look how long you got to scroll.
Sheesh, man. That's A4 paper they had to use on that. A4. Man, they probably got all of them on here. Yeah. Look at this.
Yeah, they got the whole book.
Sheesh. They got the whole family. They got everybody on here. My goodness. They got them all. Wow, this is crazy.
What was that? What was that man's name? Or the woman, the ancestor?
Dana Titus, I believe that said. Yep. Dina.
No, Hopkins.
Francis Hopkins. was her direct ancestor.
I know a whole lot of freedmen named Hopkins.
That's a me too. Me too.
See, it'd be crazy if we can get like some high profile folks to connect to some of this. Like, I bet you DeAndre Hopkins or what's the boxer name? Bernard Hopkins or something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some of these people connected over here, you know?
Right. And that's why opening a new Office of Freedmen Affairs and having as one of its functions genealogical traces is also something that we are pushing here with the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. Stay tuned. We almost finished, man. Daniel Webster. I just want to put their faces up here so people can see. Roger Williams, U.S. Rep. Joe Wilson, U.S. Rep. from South Carolina. That last guy was from Texas. And, people can see who they are as well. This guy's ancestor owned 11 slaves, Steve Womack. Joe Biden, his ancestor, Thomas H. Randall, owned 1 slave.
No comment.
Joe Biden.
No comment. No comment.
About the information provided by Reuters, because Joe Biden is an old segregationist who was mentored by Strom Thurmond. Strom Thurmond was mentored by a man named Pitchfork Ben Tillis. Y'all look up Pitchfork Ben. Y'all look him up.
Is he an ancestor of the other Tillis? Tom Tillis?
Possibly. Ooh. Possibly.
See how people inherit political advantage through the generations? Go ahead.
Now look at this. George W. Bush, former U.S. president, his ancestor, Peter G. Forey, owned 25 enslaved people, but put out a statement. Let's see what George W. said. W. Thanks for your important research and helping bring this to light. As President Bush said this was a chief of staff, said at the dedication of the National Museum of African American History and Culture, a great nation does not hide its history. It faces its flaws and corrects them. That's what repair, the root word in reparations, will do. But anyway, we can't move closer to our founding promise of equal opportunity without remembering the founding sin of slavery. That disturbing past inspires us to go farther and faster on the journey toward a better future of liberty and justice for all. Now, I will say the Bushes have put together a foundation, and I think they have like $50 million available, but they're giving the monies away to people in like Minnesota, and it's like 2 of those type of states, North Dakota, Minnesota, and there's maybe another state. But you could also have ancestors that were enslaved in the Caribbean, et cetera, et cetera. So that whole BIPOC, DEI, POC thing is going to find its way to creep in even in private initiatives. Jimmy Carter, woo, his ancestor, James W. Carter.
He named right after him, too.
Basically owned 54 enslaved persons. And let me see, spokesman, at this point, I am afraid we have to decline an interview as the family is focusing on President Carter's health. We know that. It's crazy because I know some elders that say that Jimmy Carter was actually the best president that they have ever been up under in this country. I've known several elders that have said that. I don't know that for certain, because what has changed for the freedmen, even under his administration, maybe that's something I have to look more into, but I'm just thinking about several elders that have said that.
I mean, the bar is a very low bar. We got to understand that, though. I mean,
Clinton,
that is a very, very low bar.
That's right. Clinton declined to comment about the information provided. 3 strikes.
No comment.
3 strikes. Oh,
no comment. No comment. No comment.
No comment from the tan white man. No comment. The tan-skinned white man said no comment. His direct ancestor, George W. Overall, owned 2 enslaved persons. No comment. And this is the Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Her ancestor owned 21 enslaved persons. Joelle Coney. She kept that name. He proud of that good old southern heritage. She kept
I
that.
wonder if they had any, these are just names, but I wonder if there's any relation to Coney Island.
Good. Yeah, that's a good question. Neil Gorsuch, his ancestor Nicholas Gorsuch. So these justices are deep rooted, boy. Okay, well, we got some governors. All right, we're not gonna go through all of the governors. The governor of
Go.
You want to read this?
No, I didn't know they had governors on there. That's even deeper.
Everybody on here, Doug Burham, the governor of North Dakota. We might go back up to that one. Roy Cooper, governor of North Carolina. Let me see. Wow,
this article is ill. Go ahead.
Family history disputes the spelling of names and birth dates provided by Reuters, along with the number of similar names that make historical ancestry records inconclusive. The fact remains that the evils of slavery and the systemic racism that still exists today must be fought with strong laws that fight discrimination and real investments that help create opportunity for all. You got it wrong. The opportunities is already being created for all except the American freedmen. Ali just spoke about areas in Harlem where the landlords were burning down lots and keeping the property and still benefiting from the insurance and then selling the lots, etc. Man, these people got over like fat cats on us, man. John Bell Edwards, governor of Louisiana, direct descendant of Daniel Edwards, who owned 57 enslaved persons. Asa Hutchinson, the former governor of Arkansas. Kay Ivey, the current governor of Alabama.
They just gonna name every damn state in the South.
That's right. And Kemp, the governor of the state that I'm currently in, his ancestor, John B. Lewis, owned 56 enslaved persons.
And remember, these are only the federal agents,
That's
man.
right.
This is not the state and local.
No, these are the state governors right here.
Governors now. We're on the governors now.
They named every state in the South. Every state.
We got Youngkin on the list, Josh.
Oh yeah, I already know this deal. I already know.
John W. Quinn was his ancestor. In a statement to Reuters, an aide to Governor Glenn Youngkin said the governor was not aware of these claims. As the governor has repeatedly said, slavery is abhorrent. They all use the same word. All of the Republicans use the same word, and an incontrovertible scar on American history. That's why the governor has felt so strongly that we need to teach all history, the good and the bad. What about repairing the people?
This is right here is some ultimate BS. Because I'm telling you, in Virginia, they fighting tooth and nail to try to take certain language and take certain history out of the schools, especially the history of the white supremacy and what they did to roll back any gains made by the freedmen and what happened in the slavery. They're fighting tooth and nail daily to get that, and they've been doing that since that was day one. One of his top priorities in his administration. So this is BS.
That's right. So look, family, we're at the end of it. There's more to this report that's coming. I can't wait because I'm gonna dig into this thing, man. I am really going to dig into this thing. Our organization, the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, will be reaching out to Reuters and to see how we can help in this information and see what other projects and where they're going to go in the future with this thing, because we had no idea that this was being put together. But now that we know, we have to be involved. We have to be involved. And I want to bring back home the point before we get up off here, fellas. I know why my thing wasn't popping up. I want to bring back our initial point, right? The title of this live stream is America's Descendants of Slavery. That terminology is not good. It will not fly in the face of legal challenges to it. in and of itself. It just won't.
Hey,
America,
bro, let me say this. The whole reason why Reuters did this article and named it that was to prove a point to all ADOSers that this particular language that you're using is not something that's going to be some kind of saving grace, because they're trying to undermine your ability to use it by showing you that this terminology also includes slaveholders. They did that on purpose. That was the whole reason for even using that terminology, because they're trying to say, look, y'all saying that y'all are this, but so are we. So are we. So is a whole bunch of white Americans. So that was the whole significance of even using the language as the article, as the title of the article, because they're trying to prove a point.
And so now when we talk about what should be used with the Office of Management and Budget, you can see a huge flaw and a huge mistake that will be made if they decided to implement that language in terms of giving our people who are the American freedmen the proper ethnic designation with the Office of Management and Budget. And
exactly.
I want to say one more last thing too. If this doesn't motivate you and give you a sense of purpose and vigor when we talk about implementing the strategy where we return to our ancestral origin states in the South, I don't know what will.
That's right. That's right. Because that's what I was thinking of when I was going through this earlier. That's exactly what I was thinking of, Josh. Like, this has to be motivational now at this point. This has to be something that motivates us to get back to the South, to get back to our roots. This image is powerful because it's showing that this country's power structure has its roots in the institution of slavery that they called a peculiar institution, that the right wingers in this country who oppose reparative justice for the freedmen call abhorrent, call America's original sin. And if you call it original, then that means there are other iterations of that sin, clear and present today. We can add clear and present dangers that we face as American freedmen today. No other group has to have conversations with their sons about how to interact with police under this false idea that if he would have just complied, the officers wouldn't have shot him up with 80 bullets. And yet, the people at the top, Trump and everybody, they don't have to comply with subpoenas, the things that we would get arrested for at the bottom. Family, we are going to flip this thing on its head. It's our time.
And don't forget about the Biden dude who's getting a slap on the wrist.
That's right.
If anything. Yeah.
That's right, family. I'm hoping that we can pull together, and those that's willing to do the work. We're talking about the workers. And I'm hoping that we can take something like this and really move on it, because this is something for us to move on. This is definitely something for us to move on. And the two lessons that I can point out here is that you can't use the term slavery. We just proved that.
Or descendants of slavery.
Or descendants of slavery. Just proved that, you can't exclude white folks from this institution or the financial institutions that finance the institution. Just can't do it. And the other lesson is, well, how would you find out who was a slave? Well, we seen on this list several, not only slave masters, but enslaved persons, so-called slave masters, and enslaved persons. They had lists. These people had sons and daughters. And these people are enumerated in many places. Those contraband camps that become freedmen's bureaus before the passage of the 13th Amendment. And with the 13th Amendment, they become enumerated for the first time in the South as citizens. Two lessons that we were taught here, that America can find its former slave masters and its former slaves.
So America's descendants of slavery includes the sons and daughters of the Confederacy.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. I think I get what you mean, Easy Axe. DeSantis will ban Reuters News from any news reporting in the state of Florida.
That's hilarious. I bet he would. You know what I'm saying? Is his name on that list, DeSantis?
Nope. He's Italian. He's an Italian American. So who knows? His line is probably straight Italian. That dude probably descend from mob bosses. Who knows? It's one of the 5 crime families that was shooting up stuff in New York City, imported criminality. They try to think us as if we are inherently criminal.
Man, that Genovese family goes back a long way in criminality, man. That they go back all the way past Christopher Columbus days, that Genovese family, man.
That's right.
That's an old family there.
That's right. That's right. Murder Inc. Murder Inc. consisted of not just the Italian mafia, but the Irish mafia and the Jewish mafia. Our history in this country is not one of criminality. Our history in this country is one of forced servitude. All these people that are trying to mentally subjugate us by placing these jackets on us, and they got coons like Tommy Sotomayor out there, and people that call themselves King Randall out there, and all of those types that shuck and jive for pats on the head from white folks. They get them to help put that jacket on us so that they could continue to get donations and things from these same whites that reject reparations. They'll help you if you do a little tap dance. They will help you. We know that. We know the type of dance that they do.
Hey.
White folks ain't that bad. Look at that, dude. I'm so happy. I just do my happy dance.
What you was saying, Ali?
Oh no, I was just gonna say they doing the Booker T. Washington shuffle.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's
Booker
right.
T might have had an excuse. These people don't have no excuse for doing what they're doing.
Yes, AMPDM1 governors were on the list. I'm gonna put that link back in here. Make sure y'all all go through that. Make sure y'all all go through that. So, family, we are gonna start wrapping this thing up. This was in my opinion, a powerful discussion. And I wanted to have some music playing on this one because I do these live streams and I feel a little rushed at times. I'm always wary of the time. I try my best to just try to get through the content. I know it's hard because it's too much to talk about. It's too much to talk about. But we had to get through this one tonight. Now I knew that it was going to be a long, so I wanted to try something new out with the with the music, and I think it came out great.
Hey, yo, check the inbox. I put an article in there. I want you to look at. Because I don't know if this woman is on that Reuters list or not. But I just wanted you to check it real quick before we go.
All right, let me see. Nah, she wasn't on there. Kathy Chisholm. Her name wasn't on there. She's a state senator.
Right.
Yeah,
see, this what I mean. Like that research needs to be widened to include these state people too, because I could just imagine how much larger that list would be if we started looking at people in state houses and state judge positions or state Supreme Court positions. You know what I'm saying? Could you imagine how many more people would be added to this list? Start going into that state, local, and please.
That's right. That's right. Family, this is what we do. This is Be the Power. Support the platform. Support the platform. Again, we are continuing our growth here. We are raising funds for our lecture tour. I'm going to put that link in the chat. And also, be sure to tune in tomorrow night. Be sure to tune in tomorrow night. DJ L Rock, Baltimore's best, said, "What's up? What's going on, fam? What's going on?" Make sure you all tune in tomorrow night. I like a good debate, right? And sometimes it's like, all right, I know I'm going to win the debate with the facts. There's other times I'm just hoping that the person that I'm debating is a good debater. Like I was on with Tommy Sotomayor last night in his Twitter space, and that's when I realized, this dude is an amateur. He's an amateur. He's not, I thought he was at least sharp. And I'm like, this guy's not sharp, man. This guy's easy work. I like a good debate. In that movie 300, there's a scene where the Spartans and the Greeks are looking over the rock, the cliff. And I think one of the guys is like laughing and, he's upbeat. And one of the Greeks was like, why are you so happy? Why are you like this? And the Spartan said, because down there's somebody that's going to give me a glorious death. And the Greek dude looked at him like, you Spartans are crazy. You Spartans are crazy. That's right, Sister Ross. Tommy despises freedmen women. I set him up last night, y'all. I brought up Kyle Rittenhouse. It was some white guy that came up on the stage that sounded like Kyle Rittenhouse. So Tommy Sotomayor is bashing the sister whose son, who was getting bashed, literally, by this brother in a Chicago fast food spot. And, we are all familiar, or should all be familiar, with the story. The son had the gun on him. His mother's legal licensed firearm. She was in a dangerous location. That's where they live at. They live in Chicago. This clown was talking about she shouldn't even been at the store. It's like, that's Chicago, bro. This Chicago is the result of removing $3.5 to $4 billion worth of wealth from the American freedmen there that they could not pass along to their progeny and become like some of the people that we seen on this list tonight. Oh, I can't wait till tomorrow night. We gonna get it in tomorrow. We gonna get it in. And by proxy, I'm gonna be shooting at Tommy Sotomayor because he thought he muted me out. And he started going crazy. Rah, 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 rah. And I realized, I said, guy has beta energy. And he uses his microphone and his platform to overcompensate for the fact that he's just not like no real man. And he goes at people that go at him with the rah-rah. So if you can't have an intellectual conversation with him and you just want to call him coon and mother effer and all of this and all of that, he uses that against you. Try to make it seem like he was like calling me a pro-black. We don't rock with that term black over here. We just use it because it's a generally used term. Nobody's black. It's just a term that we use.
And we
call me a Umar dude though, Ali, real quick. He don't know that we cook Umar over here on Be the Power. Umar gets no rock over here. Umar gets nothing but smoke over here on Be the Power. And so he got it all wrong. It's like, this dude don't know me. He said that. Dude, I don't even effing know you. He was just in the Twitter space the other night with me. Shout out to Sister Buffalo and Sister Hilda. He's in their Twitter space. And I don't want to say I was cooking them. I was schooling them. And he had to yield to every piece of information that I presented him with because he didn't know about it. And it would have been stupid of him to argue it. So that's why I thought at least he was sharper than that because I'm peeping all of this. But then last night, he showed his slip because, you know, he had white folk in that room. They need them pats on the head. He told, good boy, put this money in your inside coat pocket. You slip it in your side pocket. Don't mind if I touch something. Like, okay, sir. Man. So I'm not sure if that space was recorded, Sister Isla. I'm not sure, but I know he has it recorded on his podcast. Because he was recording the space that Sister Buffalo and Hilda did the other night. So
that's crazy. That's crazy because he gonna take that Twitter space that was their Twitter space and put it on his podcast to make money off of it.
Of course. He's an opportunist. He doesn't care about anything that we're pushing. He just wants to who said he's from Alaska? Well, I brought up Alaska. That's funny. I don't know. It's AMPDM1. I brought up Alaska because the dude that sounded like Cal Rittenhouse was basically talking about how black people are just so violent all over the country, and he's naming all of these different places. And I was like, Alaska has the highest violent crime in America. It's the most dangerous state in America. And it's 67% white and 3% black.
But that 3% is committing over 50% of the
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. All right, fam. So look, man, we are going to wind this thing down. Ali, Josh, y'all have anything that y'all want to share before we get up off here?
Nope, I'm good.
Check that debate tomorrow night.
That's right, fam. That's right. We smoking on. We smoking on them Republican facts tomorrow night. I don't know. Let me not say that because I want a good debate. I'll just be wanting to have a good debate. One thing I can say about the conscious community is that I could get a good debate in the conscious community.
Nah.
I got good debates in the conscious community. Let me just say that. I got good debates in the conscious community. I actually did. Of course, I wound up cooking a couple folks. And, I even lost a debate. Not because I lost on the merit, but because my laptop was all messed up. Ali had to run all around Harlem to get me a laptop. That was crazy. That was crazy. Sister Isla said, I want to hear that gumbo pot cooking you put them in. I'll have to find it, or if someone could put it in the link. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't, to be honest with you, sis, I wouldn't even search for that dude's website or his podcast or nothing. That guy is a clown. And I was just really trying to soften him up so that I could have a debate with him. That's all I was trying to do, really. See if he would commit to that debate. But, you know, we're going to take it out on Randy Perham tomorrow. Bring your A game, Randy, if you're listening. Bring your A game, brother, man, because you're going to need it. You're going to need it. So, all right, fam, we're going to get up off of here, man.
Who's moderating tomorrow?
You know what? That's a good question. That is a good question. He decided to come on BTP. So if anybody wants to moderate without, you know, it's going to be hard to not be biased, right?
We'll set that up.
Okay, let's set that up. Let's set up a moderate, you know, because
it
it
needs to be a little structured. It needs to be a little structured.
Right. We'll definitely create some structure, and we will probably I'll hit him up. I'll send him an email. And we'll create some structure. We'll see if we could get somebody to moderate the debate. And, you know, that kind of keeps me in check as well, right? Because it's my platform. I might want to, he keep just rambling and filibustering. I might just want to mute him.
Right. And so we set some time limits.
That's right.
We set some bullet points, like some points that need to be touched on. Are reparations owed? We could do some stuff like that. Are reparations owed, and who would they be owed to? Why or why not? You know, he could present on why they are not owed. You can break down why they are owed. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing like that, man. And then maybe do like a question and answer, you know, after like a couple of rounds of presentation, then do like a question and answer towards the end where you can ask him stuff, he can ask you stuff or whatever, and you know, and do it like that. It definitely needs to be structured. I don't think it should be some free for all. Everybody, niggas just saying any old fucking thing for like 20 minutes and like, nah.
That's crazy. You know I ain't doing that. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not trying to have a debate like that where I talk that long, and I'm definitely not letting anybody come up on here and do that. So, all right, fam. Let me see. I don't understand your message in the back channel, Josh. Just put it in the inbox because I'm gonna close it out. Okay. I got you. All right, fam. We getting up out of here. Again, you already know what time it is. We leave you all with the motto of our platform, which is don't just fight the power, become the power. And then and only then will you have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.